So you've got this massive Atlas of World History project on your plate, and you're maybe wondering where to even start. Well, don't worry, in the next few minutes, we're going to break it all down step by step into a super simple guide for success.
Let's be real. When you hear you have to create an entire atlas of world history, that can sound pretty intimidating. But trust me, once we pull back the curtain, you'll see it's actually an awesome way to connect all the dots from everything you've learned. See, this whole assignment really just boils down to two main things. First, you've got the atlas itself. That's going to be at least 14 of your own original maps. And second, there's a 2-page analysis paper where you explain the story your maps are telling. That's it. 2 parts, totally doable. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about your main mission with the atlas. Then, we'll dive into the secret sauce of the project, the 4 C's of history. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of making your maps, then shift to writing the analysis, and finally, we'll crack the code on the rubric so you know exactly how to get top marks.
Right, let's jump into part 1, your mission. I want you to think of yourself as more than just a student for this. You're a cartographer, a map maker, and a storyteller. Your job is to illustrate the huge, sweeping story of world history, all the way up to about 1492.
Now, here's the key number you got to remember, 14. That's the minimum number of maps you need to create. The whole idea is to make at least 2 maps for each of the 7 weeks of the course. Each one of those pairs is going to be your visual argument for a major theme from that week.
But here's the thing, your maps can't just be pretty pictures. They have to be smart. They need to be built around the intellectual core of this whole project, what we call the 4 C's. Every single pair of maps you make has to illustrate one of these 4 big ideas.
The first C is context. The easiest way to think about this is the setting of your historical story. It's everything going on around an event that helps us understand why it happened in the first place. You know, a map showing major trade routes gives you amazing context for how ideas, or even diseases, spread across the world.
Next up, we have change. This one's pretty straightforward. It's all about transformation over time. How did an empire's borders grow or shrink over a century? How did the introduction of a new crop change a whole society? Your maps are the perfect way to show this change, not just tell it.
Our third C is comparison. This is where you really get to put on your analyst hat. You're putting 2 things side by side to see what's similar and what's different. For instance, you could make one map of the incredible Roman road network and another of the Han dynasties in China, and compare how these 2 powerhouse empires tackled the same problem of connecting their vast territories. And finally, there's continuity. This is basically the flip side of change. It asks the question, what stayed the same even while the world was turning upside down around it? Maybe it was a major trade route that persisted for 1,000 years, or a local tradition. You know, sometimes what doesn't change tells the most powerful story of all.
All right, we've got our big historical concepts down. Now let's switch gears and get practical. How do you actually go about crafting these maps?
Here is your simple recipe for a great map. It's got to be neat and easy to read. Every single map needs a clear title and a compass rose. If you're using colors or symbols to show things, you absolutely have to include a key or legend so we know what they mean. And this is the big one, it has to be your original work. You'll get blank outline maps, and a tool like Canva is perfect for adding your own historical layers on top. And this right here, this really gets to the heart of the project. Sure, a lot of people might make a map of the Mongol Empire, but the real question is, how are you going to make it your own? What specific story about context or change or comparison are you going to tell that's unique? This is where you get to be creative.
Okay, fast forward. You've created this beautiful, insightful atlas. Amazing. But the maps can't do all the talking. That's where the second half of the project comes in, the analysis paper. This is your chance to explain the why behind all your brilliant work.
And the length requirement is crystal clear. You're aiming for a sharp, focused 2-page paper. Not 1.5, not 3, exactly 2 pages.
So what goes into those 2 pages? It's basically 2 things. First, you need an introduction that explains your grand vision. Out of all the things in world history, why did you choose these specific maps? What's the main story you're trying to tell? And second, you'll give a short analysis, about a paragraph, for each pair of maps, telling us exactly how they connect to whichever one of the 4 C's you chose.
All right, we've built the whole project. Now let's talk about how to absolutely crush it. The best way to do that is to stop thinking of the grading rubric as some big mystery. Instead, think of it as your cheat sheet for getting a fantastic grade.
Let's just translate this academic speak into plain English. When the rubric says disciplinary vocabulary, it just means use the key terms you've been learning in class. Simple. Cross-cultural understanding? That means show that you get that other cultures are complex, not just simple cartoons. Global interdependence? That's all about connecting the dots. Show how events in one part of the world affected another. And situates discrimination? Just connect a specific example of it to bigger patterns like colonialism. See? Not so scary.
And finally, let's talk about submission. Don't trip at the finish line. This part is so important. You're turning in 3 separate files. Number 1, your finished atlas, saved as a PDF. Number 2, your 2-page analysis, as a Word file. And number 3, don't forget the assignment checklist itself. That's an easy 10 points right there just for confirming you did everything.
And there you have it. That's how a huge, intimidating project gets broken down into totally manageable steps. This whole thing isn't just about making some maps. It's about learning how to make a visual argument, how to tell a powerful story with images. It's your chance to really think like a historian. So the only question left is, are you ready?